Joe, I know you're a fighter because I've talked to you enough to know that you dig in and you go after everything. Do you sense that kind of fight in your team after the Long Beach State game for this coming weekend?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that probably the strength we've had so far is how competitive our guys have been, how much fight they've had. I think that's why we've had so many close games and highly competitive games. And the exciting part for us is, to be able to play against a team that really, controlled the tempo and controlled the game like Long Beach State and have that chance to really fight back. I mean, that's what sports is about, is to take a lump and play against a team that really handles you and then fight back and get ready for a big weekend opportunity to try to get a victory or two up on the road.
Hey, Coach. Looks like the shooting woes have returned at the Long Beach State game. I know you guys played well at Pepperdine. It's been kind of the theme this year. I mean, what can you do to get this the offense kind of turned around and hopefully head in the right direction here?
Well, it's obviously it's not a mystery. When do we play well is when you shoot well. I mean, and we kind of breaking it down. When you have 12 games under your belt, you really can look at some stats. I'm not much of a stat rat the first 3 or 4 or 5 games. I think that can be distorted based upon the opponent that you're playing or the style that you're playing. But after 10 or 12 games, you can really get a better idea of what's going on statistically. And two of the things that we've got to be able to address. One is on the positive side, is that if you look at our team and you say, well, your shooting woes and your field goal percentage, we're shooting 28% from the three-point line, and our opponent's shooting 28% from the three-point line. So one of the things that's kept us in these games is our fact that we have defended at a very, very high rate. And overall field goal shooting percentage, though, is 41. Our opponent has 41%. We only have 37 as a total field goal shooting percentage. So that means we're really probably missing a lot of our two-point, whether it's a transition shot, a 15-footer, a post move, finishing shots are right at the tip. And so one of the things that we'll look at putting in now is, now that we're about midway and starting the new year, is that we're shortening practice up, but we're going to have a lot more competitive shooting and physical shooting. That means you usually used to do a lot of shooting drills that entail, we call naked shots, where no one's really guarding you. You're getting rhythm and confidence. Now we're going to institute a lot more of our shooting that has contact and competition and speed, to try to get that up and shorten the practice, but increase the speed and the intensity. Because if you look at it, we've got to be able to finish the shots that have contact involved, almost willing that in. Now, of course, you've got to make the shots that are open, and then a lot of that. Then the other part is you got to look at what players do we need to get. Players that have taken a lot of shots, and at what percentage. Getting them into best spots to score at a higher percentage. And one of those, I think, is Sean Lewis, getting him into a more in a more aggressive role near the hoop, whether it's a post-up or a drive. And I think that's going to be a key part of as we continue to try to, solve the field goal shooting percentage and scoring woes.
You talk about Sean. I was looking at his numbers today, and his scoring average is up a couple points from last year, but his shooting percentage is way down, both three-point and just total. So obviously he's taking more shots. What do you see in his game that you think can be improved here in the?
Well, just we had mentioned, he's really pressing. He wants to have a great senior year, and he's really concerned about it. And he's put a lot of time into it. It might be it's a new role for him where he feels like he has to score instead of letting it come to him and taking, waiting for an opportunity to get that open shot, getting him on the block, getting that transition shot. I think he feels that the expectation of being a scorer, and what we need him to be is a higher field goal shooting scorer, and help us win the game by drawing attention, kicking it back out, being patient with it. And David Hansen, to the same extent. David's percentage is slightly higher than Sean, but those two guys are getting majority of the shots, and so they feel that pressure and expectation to be primary 1 and 2 scorers. But that doesn't change the responsibility of not getting a shot. It's getting the best shot and continue to get that best shot available. Against Pepperdine, David had 5 or 6 really open, good rhythm shots, and when you make 1 or 2 of them, then it kind of the momentum kind of built from that point. And then the other night, what we're seeing is teams keying so much on David and so much on Shawn that they got to wait for that second and third touch opportunity and let the other guys kind of fill into that space. So it's definitely something we'll continue to work on.
Another player I wanted to talk about, Donahue. It doesn't seem like he's as effective as he was last year in the limited games that we saw. He was up around 12 points per game. Is there something with him offensively that has changed, maybe the offense or whatever? But it seems like his scoring this year just doesn't seem to be quite there as it was last year.
Well, one of the things that you see is scouting reports. And I tell every freshman and every high school coach in college, I said the biggest difference between high school and college is it's called 4 grown men that get paid to stop you. I mean, there's videotapes out, and any time we burst onto the scene, as Kyle Oddister did last year, Kyle was highly effective the first 10, 12, 15 games. I said, but, the difference is it's called scouting report. And Donahue got his 10, 12. Nobody knew what to expect out of him, what were his go-to moves, what were his strengths, his weaknesses. It's like a scouting report, just like pitching, I'd imagine in baseball. A pitcher comes on scene, and suddenly nobody knows what kind of he has. When that's when they get an idea of what the pitcher has, and that's what post play is too. What shoulder does a guy like to go to? How far is his range? What is his strength for offensive rebounding? Putting that emphasis on, I don't think he's too far off what he was. I think he's maybe 2 or 3 points off, which is a possession, which is probably more tempo of the game for us. And the fact that, when Lorenzo Keeler's out knocking down a three-pointer, it spaces the court a little bit more. We haven't had that consistent perimeter threat that, you have David Hansen and Lorenzo Keeler and a Kyle Oddister. The court becomes much more open, and the spacing for a guy like Donahue to get the offensive boards and the easy naked post-ups are a little bit different. And quite frankly, it's more room to play. And now it's such a jammed court, and the double teams come big. And you look at the types of teams that are playing, that have the types of long athletes that are really, really, challenging when it comes to scoring close in. So with him, we got to look at keeping him moving and scoring off the move so that we can get him to the free throw line and cash in that way too.
So you go on the road for a couple of big games. It's always tough for this team to go, especially Pacific. This week, the importance of getting at least a win and not dropping to 0-3, that would be a big hole for you guys. Talk about these 2 games coming up.
Well, our goals for the year are to win 4 of 8 conference games on the road. I think every coach in every sport looks at, unless you're just a juggernaut of UConn women's basketball and you plan on winning 70 in a row or something. In most sports, it's looking at, can you split on the road? And we try to take it a larger view than that, is splitting on the road, meaning can you win 4, can you get 4 conference games on the road? Somehow pick 4 out. So we tell them, whether we go 2-0, 1-1, or 0-2, that only puts you 1 step closer or 2 steps closer, no steps closer to overall of getting 4 wins in a row. So try not to overanalyze or overfocus on conference record. As last year, you're 5-2. Ultimately speaking, we ended up with the 6th seed, and maybe 1 game away from maybe being a 7th or 8th. So you try to look at the picture of, we have freshman point guards that are still developing, and if we can get them more experience down the road, get our offense to continue to develop. We're unsure of Chris O'Brien's status for the game. Sure, that would be a question. So we're looking at what we'll end up starting, and we'll make that a game time decision on who we end up starting in Chris O'Brien's role, whether it's Chris or another guard and so forth. So, looking at that from getting more guys healthy, getting more guys in sync with one another, getting our offense in sync, so that we can look at the portion in February where we have 6 of 8 games at home and saying, okay, we want to be playing our best basketball. We'd love to go 2-0 on the road, but we still got to keep the bigger picture of saying we got to keep getting better and ultimately speaking be playing our best basketball in February and tournament-wise going into March if we can make the tournament.
So it sounds like